So I live in an area of Toronto that I wouldn't specifically deem very photographable. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that I've been around this area so many times that it just looks the same to me. There's nothing new, there's nothing exciting. So I've challenged myself to go out and spend half hour, 45 minutes doing a video, taking pictures of things that I don't find interesting to hopefully spark some interest. Let's see how that goes. So I am immediately met with an area where a small encampment burned down recently, which is probably a good reason to visit areas you've been before. Every time I walk up to this building, I get this feeling of, wow, this would make an excellent photo, because it's got lots of texture up through here. I like this stack here. There's a lot of overgrown areas right here, but because I walk past it so many times, I don't really take photos of it. So I'm going to change that. For those of you who are familiar with the area, this is the Beltline Trail, and I'm on an area that is a little north of Eglinton and east of Dufferin. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've taken a picture of these electrical towers. But I'm just gonna do it again, just to do it. If you all cannot tell, I am still using that very vignette heavy, weird mist filter on my Osmo Pocket 3. And it creates this very dramatic dark area on the outside of your frame, here and back, as well as over there. And that's not uncommon for variable NDs, but this is one of the more egregious versions of that. And I thought you should know. I haven't updated that yet. Who knows? Maybe I will next time. Probably not. If you guys haven't noticed, I am using a new bag. It's one I picked up off of Amazon, and right now my microphone battery is a little dead, so I've got a power bank attached to the inside of the bag with the microphone on it attached to the bag. It's a solution, but the reason why I got this bag is because it was small enough to have my Osmo Pocket 3 and a camera like this, my Fujifilm XE4 with a small lens, but still large enough to have a couple of accessories like my power bank or my wallet or a water bottle, and this one is crazy. It has 2 water bottle holders. This is not a review of this bag. I'm just excited. I've had it for a couple of weeks and it's really worked for me. It's the time of year where practically everything is in bloom and ready for harvest, I guess. And I don't always come out during this time of year, or at least not with my camera, so I'm going to try and capture some of this in the wild. There is a lushness to everything right now. It's been a particularly rainy summer, so a lot of overgrowth is apparent here. And right now the city is removing it because although it is a native type of overgrowth, I think it's Virginia creeper, apparently it is strangling a bunch of endangered plants. So, fun facts. This is a little path that is right off the Beltline that I don't often walk through, but I walk past. But I never really stop, and that is probably for a good reason, but maybe it will be an interesting shot. One of the struggles that I find doing casual photography like this is that you end up in places that are all too familiar, so you don't always have that eye out for something new, something interesting. It just kind of blends into the background, and what I'm trying to do today is reset that part of my brain and allow some of the more mundane, some of the more familiar things to be interesting, to be exciting again. Because it wasn't always familiar to me. This was a new area at one point. One of the main reasons I don't really photograph around here very often is because I just never grasped photographing residential areas. And I'm in a residential area. There's like too much space between things, or not enough space between things at the same time. You'll just see these rows and rows of houses, and like, that's it. There's nothing that's isolated or on its own. Or it's not closed and tight as a city would be. Like a downtown area, the more urban centers, they have more to offer, photographically speaking, for someone like me. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing really wrong with residential areas if that's something that you like to photograph. But for me, there's just only so many modern trucks I can take a picture of, or hanging trees, or honestly, just modern cars don't have the sex appeal that I'm looking for. So I booked a trip to Victoria in British Columbia, beginning of September, the 1st to the 6th. And I'm doing it because it's a little bit of change of scenery. I'm going to see my sister who moved out there last year, but really just gives me something to do. I've never sat on these steps before. I've lived here for about 7 or 8 years, and this is like 300 meters away from my house, and I've never sat on these very steps. That's one of the funny things about where you live, is that you may think you know your area, but you haven't done everything. I know I haven't done everything. These are dumpsters. There's nothing very interesting about dumpsters. This is definitely one of those videos where I was inside and I was thinking that summer's over half over, and I needed to get outside, so. Was there a plan behind this video? Not really, but here we are. I guess overall I'm trying to say is, don't always feel like you have to stray too far from your own backyard in order to take interesting photos. You may just want to try practicing finding interesting photos close to home, because they do exist. And maybe they're not always as exciting as going to the desert, or going to the forest, or going to the big city, but they're there and they're available. You just have to seek them out. Anyways, I think that's it for me. So until next time, adios.